Hello, and welcome to the Big4AccountingFirms.com podcast. This is episode 25. Today I wanted to go over one of my favorite subjects, which is stress at the Big Four accounting firms and what causes it. When you first hear about the Big Four accounting firms at your school, you think about prestige and working at a huge company. You also see people cower in fear, though, when they talk about the Big Four accounting firms. Why is that? They're usually warning signs. It's either at a happy hour that you attend when you're doing recruiting, or it's even during campus visits where you hear about the long hours. It's also from your fellow classmates. They spread rumors about these fearful Big Four accounting firms. You hear about all the stressed out accountants at the Big Four. Where does the stress come from? Where does that fear come from? It comes from multiple places. And I really want to talk about stress and fear in the workplace today, but I also, as a professional, you can't be stressed out by everything nowadays. American society and the global society, for that matter, is all about comfort nowadays. Are you comfortable doing this? If you're not comfortable, it causes stress. Now, you'll succeed as a business professional if you are able to work in uncomfortable situations and if you learn how to de-stress at the end of the day. But in order to grow as a person and a professional, you need to be able to be in uncomfortable situations. Now, that's not to say that you should just take what the Big Four serve to you and it is what it is. That's not what I'm trying to say. I do believe the Big Four are unnecessarily stressful and that there's things that they can do to prevent causing people stress. But first of all, the Big Four are different than most accounting jobs, and this is what causes the stress. Most accounting jobs are very monotonous and relaxed. Most accountants are in private company or even bookkeepers. They have steady and reliable schedules. That is not the case of the Big Four. Let's go over one of the first reasons I think the Big Four are very stressful. The first reason I think that they're stressful is because the Big Four is client-facing. Not only are they client-facing, they service the largest companies in the world as their clients. They make millions of dollars to be on call for whatever their client needs. For example, on our website, look at our PwC clients page, or even our EY clients page. On the PwC page, you can see that they receive well over $75 million a year from AIG, who is one of their largest clients. If that's your client, do you think you can tell them that you have a family night this night or that night? How many times do you think that they can hear you have a family night or that another partner has a family night before they look to somebody else, look to another accountant? You can't. You can't, because if you're PwC, EY will come around next year and underbid the audit that year. You always have this threat of competition from Deloitte, EY, KPMG, because it's not only your family and your job on the line, it's your client's job on the line too. They need this work done in order to keep their job, so they don't care if you need a family night. And that creates tension and stress on the job. And another thing that causes stress that I just mentioned was this underbidding. You constantly have to be worried about being underbid on projects. Sometimes I think that some of these Big Fours would bid $1 on a contract just to spite the other Big Four firms. The only thing that probably prevents some of them from doing this is they have risk management teams and risk management reviewers. That client-facing culture also creates other stressing matters, the Big Four. Goals, or more like the lack of goals. I know a lot of people out there will say, hey, I make goals every year at the Big Four. What are you talking about? I know that part of the peer review or performance review every year at the Big Four requires you to create goals, but those aren't real goals, the Big Four. The real goals of the Big Four are created by clients. As part of your yearly performance goals, you can say things like, I want to be more technical, or I want to be on XYZ client, but you can't really do that because of the changing nature of the Big Four. The one constant goal at the Big Four that everyone has to have is a desire to do anything necessary whenever necessary. This means putting everything to the side when needed. Oh, so you want to be more technical? Sorry, that is going to have to wait. There's a huge restatement in a city that is not your home city. Oh, you want to be on XYZ client next year? Sorry, we just lost that client to a competitor. This lack of goals, true goals at the Big Four is a huge stressor. And this lack of goals and expectations, I believe this has a direct effect on the next item we're going to talk about. The next thing that causes stress at the Big Four. Hours. Yep, you guessed it. Long hours at the Big Four. This is the one that you are probably aware of and that everyone is aware of. You hear this when you first learn about the Big Four accounting firms. The long hours. Why does everyone have to work long hours at the Big Four? Why? Why can't they just fix it? These are all things that you and others will be saying when you speak about the Big Four. You want me to let you in on a little secret? You want to learn why you work so many hours? Because there are no goals and objectives. It was funny. At one of my Big Four training sessions, nationwide training sessions that the Big Four send you to, they had a project manager come in. The guy was an engineer, and he gave a lesson. He taught us the essentials of project management. He said people only work overtime when they don't plan correctly. Everyone in the room laughed. We were like, no, it's just how it is. He's like, no, it has to be the poor planning. Everyone is like, we plan on our engagements, but if the clients want something additional, we just have to do it. He's like, no, they can't. Then you just extra bill them for that. He clearly did not get how the Big Four work. And the reason that doesn't work that way, to him, he's a common sense individual. He works in business and outcomes are desired. The Big Four is not about that. The main thing about the Big Four is we make money on hours. The more hours you bill, more money you make. So the incentive isn't to get things right and make it efficient. It's to incur more hours. It's also this sense of doing the same as last year. So let's say you go into one of your partner's office and tell them you learned how to manage a project. Well, nope, they're old dogs. They're used to inefficiency and the lack of goals. And also another reason the partners don't care about goals and project management is because that means that there's no expectations of them. If you have this nice little project management template with the amount of hours expected to work by everybody, that means you're essentially telling your partner how many hours you expect out of him to work. You think a partner at the Big Four is going to do that? Yeah, right. That's not the way they were brought up. They're not trying to hear that. This environment with long hours and inability to change, it leads to a very stressful environment. The next thing I wanted to talk about is sort of an offshoot from long hours, and it is called FaceTime. Some of the long hours at the Big Four accounting firms are due to FaceTime. What is FaceTime? It is the amount of time you have to have your face seen by partners in your group, partners in other groups, or clients. FaceTime is where you just have to stick around late sometimes to make it seem like you are important or busy. This is because a lot of the work in the Big Four isn't truly tangible. A lot of the work is just work papers that goes into somebody's drawer, or a filing system online, or an audit opinion that goes nowhere, or an audit opinion where the documentation is from a database. And a lot of this work is the same year over year. You could probably complete a lot of it very quickly, but then you couldn't bill the client millions of dollars, now could you? Therefore, you have to constantly seem busy, even when you aren't busy. This requires you to stick around awkwardly, not knowing when it's time to leave. This creates a ton of stress, because what if you do want to get to the gym? It's about to close. Can you leave? Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I have enough FaceTime. The partner was away all day, so I better stick around. This leads me to my next point. Another thing that causes stress, I believe, this might be a small factor, but nonetheless, I believe it causes stress, is the lack of mentorship at the Big Four. There isn't a strong mentor program at the Big Four. You would think there would be because there's a lot of older, successful partners around, but they just aren't interested or motivated to do so. They had such hard careers coming up because of the long hours we spoke about that most of them just try to see how much they can work from home instead of coming into the office and mentoring young professionals. A lot of the partners don't even know how they made partners. They just know that they were willing to do whatever it took, whenever it took, and they just got there with passage of time. Most partners aren't even super technical. Some partners are just nice people that are best friends with the huge client, and that's how they became partner. Therefore, a lot of them can't even tell you how they became partner. This is why the Big Four isn't good for mentorship. Looking for someone to lead you, to help you up the ladder? Sorry, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. Figure it out yourself, like I did, is what many partners might say to you. This makes it stressful when you're trying to understand the path upwards in the Big Four, how to advance in your career. Those are just some of the factors that I believe lead to a stressful workplace at the Big Four. I'm sure there are many others, and we'll try to think of them and help you work on that. I'm sure there are many other factors that lead to a stressful environment. If you have some thoughts, make sure to visit our website, www.thebig4accountingfirms.com, and go to our forum in the general discussion and give us some ideas of what you think causes stress. Or as they come to our heads, we'll create another podcast, so make sure to subscribe. That's all we have for today. Thanks for listening.